You only know about Martians, but we exist too. We are the Neptunians. The only thing we lack is the ability to see anything other than metal.
Neptune is a distant ice giant. It is composed largely of gases and icy materials, and its atmosphere gives it a blue appearance. Let's make an assumption. Let's imagine that beings made of metal live on this planet, and suppose their defining characteristic is that they can only see metals. They can't see humans. If Neptunian scientists came to Earth and set foot in Japan, they wouldn't see any humans. They'd see buildings, skyscrapers. They'd see factories. If they toured, say, the Honda factory, what would they see? Honda doesn't just make cars. There are motorcycles, scooters, and business jets, aircraft engines, marine engines, generators, lawn mowers, farm machinery, avatar robots. Hundreds of different technological devices and machines like these are made in Honda's factories. What would the Neptunians see? On one side of the factories, they'd see raw materials, iron, steel, aluminum, coming in. Then they'd see these being perfected step by step on the production lines. And finally, turning into technological devices. Since the Neptunians can't see the workers and engineers, what would they think about this mysterious transformation and process? This is how we see it. This is how the Neptunians see it. This is how we see it. This is how the Neptunians see it. They would be completely bewildered. This is how the Neptunians see it.
I think this planet is magical. Everything forms itself. It's as if there are invisible hands.
It would be natural for them to think this way. If Neptunian scientists toured Honda's factories and then, on their way back to their planet, wrote a report, what would that report say? Written in their own alphabet, this is what such a report would look like.
A large number of complex metal structures have been observed in Honda's factories. However, no engineer who designed or produced these structures, no worker, technician, or manager has been found. Sheets are carried by chance to certain areas, then cut, bent, and randomly joined to one another. The most striking phenomenon observed is that the metals advance along the production lines, maturing piece by piece, and at the end of the line, by chance, leave the line as a fully functional machine. It is unclear how these metal communities can self-replicate without any guiding intelligence. It has been observed that the parts converge on a common purpose by chance. Pistons settle into cylinders, shafts into bearings, and gears into regions that fit one another perfectly. The possibility stands out that engine parts reached a functional order as a result of random collisions. The emergence of functional engines may not be the result of design, but of an accumulation of successful coincidences.
These are the kinds of words that would appear most frequently in the Neptunians' report. Since they couldn't see the engineers and workers, they'd phrase sentences like these. Honda uses ERP software called SAP and the PLC programming language in its production and business management. This shows that the different types of devices are related to one another. But does this relatedness mean these devices evolved from one another? It shows they're products of the same factory. The devices produced share a common design. They resemble one another. The reason for this is that the design of all these devices and machines is done by the same graphic artists and designers.
The fact that thousands of the aircraft's parts work toward a common flight purpose can be explained by the selection of random formations. The odds of the wings forming symmetrically of a flight-capable structure emerging from among countless failures piles of metal are extremely low, but a sufficient number of random trials may have produced this result.
Of course, it's engineers and workers who make the devices Honda produces. This jet is the most artistic of them all. So, can this jet compete with a mosquito as a work of art? A bird weighing 1.5 to 2 milligrams. This raisin weighs just 1 gram. 700 mosquitoes make up 1 gram. The science, power, and might that created 700 mosquitoes from such a tiny amount of matter. It has a brain in its tiny body, equipped with computer systems, a nervous system, digestive system, respiratory system, circulatory system, excretory system, and reproductive system. It finds the spot to drill. It draws its food in a way that would make oil drilling look simple by comparison. If we gathered all of Honda's engineers together, could they produce a metal mosquito with these features? If all the scientists in the world came together, they couldn't produce a single mosquito. Imitating it is impossible. So what do scientists say to explain these wonderful living beings, each more amazing than the last? This book has been a reference text in university biology departments for over 40 years. Some scientists persistently disregard the existence of a creator, like the author of this book. Let's quickly go through its pages.
About 3 to 4 billion years ago, a cosmic lottery was drawn, and in all likelihood, the grand prize fell to Earth. A magnificent product of billions of years. Roughly a billion years ago, when they split, the millions of years that passed contributed to the development of the photosynthesis mechanism.
And to explain these transformations and changes, he says millions, billions of years, 200 times.
The importance of chance in evolution. Entirely down to chance. It is entirely down to chance. As a great stroke of chance. Since the chance of success is low,
he had to use the word chance 225 times.
In all probability, most likely.
The word probability, or likely, is used 220 times.
Maybe it existed, maybe it pushed, maybe it doesn't exist, maybe it will form.
He used the words maybe 150 times.
That it could be a coincidence. This path is accepted as a coincidence. Truly the result of a coincidence. Entirely the result of coincidence. They were able to use it, by coincidence, in the new environment. Truly lost as a result of coincidence.
He used random and coincidence 67 times.
May have emerged. May have eliminated. There may be deviations. May have occurred. May be different, or may be the same.
Because he wasn't sure of what he wrote, he said may be 151 times.
It is estimated. It is estimated to be less. It is being estimated.
He used forms of the verb estimate 64 times. He's not wrong to say these things. If you want to explain these magnificent works of art without a creator, you have to use these words. Every living being is a work of art. So how can we perceive God's creating? God has two kinds of creation. The first is creation out of nothing. The second is creation through construction, and we experience this one at every moment. The Neptunians couldn't see these workers. Invisible hands were developing the devices. So how does this happen? Plant cells continue to differentiate, develop, and multiply. Plant seeds are cast into the darkness of the soil, into the mud. From there, they're built step by step. Flowers rise from the pitch-black soil and become colorful. They are built like skyscrapers, each type constructed from different kinds of bricks. When we look at this skyscraper, there's no life in its bricks. It's a dead building. But plants, humans, and other living things aren't like that. There is a miraculous vitality in every single cell, both the vitality of growth and the vitality of survival. The organelles of cells work non-stop, like conscious little robots. This vitality is sustained by God's continuous act of creation. Whenever God wills, the manifestations of creation cease, and we die. Our lives continue through God's act of creation at every moment. There is creation happening in trees at every moment. 1,001 kinds of fruit are created step by step. So God is creating at every moment. He created yesterday, and He is creating now too. Because the author disregards the Creator in the differentiation and construction of living things, he had to use these words hundreds of times. Once you leave God out of the equation, you have no other option. The first kind of creation is creation out of nothing, origination from nothing. The second is building. We didn't witness creation. That's why there are two options for explaining it. In the first option, we can say this: God brought all living things into being all at once out of nothing, or He brought each of them into being separately, at different times. In other words, every living being was created separately from the earth. This is not difficult for God's power and might. God says be, and it is. The second option has three components: chance and coincidence, natural selection, and small changes accumulated over generations. That's the thesis of the book. In this option, living things are assumed to undergo a certain kind of change and transformation. Everything is assumed to have evolved into separate species, into perfect living things. So, can those who accept this option leave the Creator out of it? Can we make a similar family tree for Honda's products? Without engineers, workers, and accumulated technological knowledge, could these cars, motorcycles, and jet planes be produced? The car and motorcycle on the left each have a purpose for being produced. So could the unique works of art on the right have evolved without a purpose? If living things had evolved into absurd designs, perhaps this way of thinking would not seem so strange. But there isn't a single bad design claimed to have evolved on Earth. Could these magnificent works of art have developed without any planning? This assumption, too, doesn't leave the Creator out of the equation. The world isn't a realm of power, but a realm of wisdom. Everything is created gradually, over time. In the creation of the world, there are 6 days, 6 stages involved. God creates everything on earth according to rules and principles, through the laws of nature. God may have diversified all species through His power over millions of years. All living things may have been created through a gradual progression from one stage to the next. Even those who think this way cannot explain living things without a Creator. That living things are built from atoms and molecules, then divided into colorful species, and transformed into ever-different works of art, is a matchless miracle. Leaving God out of the equation of existence requires leaving reason and logic aside as well.